Welcome back to another GameMaker Studio tutorial. And this time we're gonna do something similar to the last video. We're gonna do some saving with a text file, and this time not an ini file but a regular text file. And this is going to be a little bit more complicated, but you can kind of do your own thing there. So if you want to know that, stay tuned. This is OneUp Indie. I am the developer of the indie game Clunky and a programmer / pixel artist. So if you're new here and you want more, consider subscribing to my channel because I upload every day a video. So what you're seeing on the screen is basically I have this disk here. This is basically just my saving object, and there all this stuff is being handled. And what is handled for now, on the top left you see the points when I'm collecting them there with this ghoulish guy or whatever, that wizard do this. He's collecting slimes, he's getting points. And on the right side is string. So basically what are we storing in those text files? Only two things, because there are only two things: numbers, which are reals, and strings, which is just a text. So let's get right into the thing. So if you have seen my last video, then this should be kind of familiar to you, because I did there. Indies was pretty easy because you had your sections, then you had your keys, which are just your variables, and then they had a specific value, which could be a number or I don't know, a string, because this thing is a string, or I don't know, something else. And here, for example, you could really neatly organize, and I can say, all right, for my section player I wanted to add, I don't know, stamina, and then you would do something like this, of course in GMS, but here I just fill it with something. Bam, pretty sweet. But now we don't have this kind of structure, we just have something like this, and this looks similar, but it's completely not. This thing is quite sensitive concerning to your lines. What do I mean by that? Well, for example, this is line 1, line 2, line 4, and how can you see that? Well, here it tells you which line you are on, because for example, if you add something in here, everything is gonna get pushed down one more line downwards. And then for example, if you would be reading out that line, that's why you need to do your data structure pretty much in advance, because once you add some stuff, everything else is gonna get pushed down, and then you can have some errors which maybe you don't want. So just keep that in mind. So we have our save file, and this is being created directly if it's not by GameMaker Studio. So for example, here the path is users, basically on your C drive, because most of the time everything is on the C drive. Then users, how your PC is called, then app data, local, and then the last one is a folder which is just has the same name of your project, which you see in the top left. So here, as you can see, everything is already set up, but we're gonna do that point for point so you see the whole process, because now it's a little bit more complicated than before. So let's get right into that stuff, how we can actually set it up. So for now we are having two things: my points, which are pretty much global every time. And what we're gonna do, we just open our save and read out how many save points we have, and then we store it in our global points. For now we just initialize it as 0, and that thing is just a string text box, text thing. We can completely ignore that because I'm not gonna touch on that one for now, but it's just for you that you see how things work and how they are doing, how this stuff works in the whole process. So the first thing we need to do is to open our file. So it just says file, text, open, and then you can read or write. And this is quite important, because depending what kind of command you give it, you can, for example, just do reading here, and that's it. So just keep that in mind. And then of course in the end, similar to the ini file, you need to no, that's wrong. Okay, you don't want, it doesn't want to, interesting. Okay, let's check it out if it's working. Then we do it manually. Text and then close. And what kind of file? Well, this one. So I just explain the code, what's actually happening here. So basically what you're having, we have a variable which we just store, and I just do var because it's just a temporal one. Once we, I don't know, create this object saves, we are just saving it once and then discarding it because we just needed to do it once. Because, I don't know, you could do something like you put it into your game, and once everything is being loaded, you destroy the object, or you just pop it up when it's needed, when you do some save files or some load files. So you just understand how that stuff works. So what do? We have this store save file, so as a variable, and then we say, all right, let's open our file, which is this guy here in brackets, and you can call it whatever you like. You can say dot bob bb, something like this. So basically the format is not really important because in the end it's just a text file. Same for here, call it whatever you like, but don't do something like this because that could not work, because these things are kind of artificial in your Windows or your Mac system or whatever you're using. So just keep that in mind. For example, if you need to have that, do an underscore. So we have our file opened and then we want to read from it. So the next thing that we do is open something. So basically we want to read something from there. So what could we read from there? Well, for example, we can say let's assign our global points, which we are just 0 from the start, and read out, so file text read, and then you need to have the data structure which is there assigned. So basically you can have real, which is just a real number, or a string, which is just basically a text. So you understand how to do that, and then with that little command it needs to know, okay, but what do we not, from where do we want to read? And here it says file, and this is basically the whole variable which we've been using to access that that text file, that's basically it. So, and this is actually possible to do that 32 times. So basically what you can do, but I wouldn't really recommend it, you can open 32 separate files like this, and you can open them and then leave them out. But for what we are doing here, we're just opening that and then closing it immediately after we've done what we wanted to do. So we do now read from this save file and store it our global points. Pretty sweet, pretty easy, no problem. And these global points are being drawn by my dummy wizard here, and he's just saying, all right, draw that stuff on the screen. That stuff should be, I guess, a no-brainer for you guys. So let's get back in here. So that stuff, if you for example run it, wouldn't work. You know what? Okay, it does work because the save file which you're seeing here already exists. But for example, what actually happens if you do that for the first time? So let's try that again. That was a fail. Neat. As you can see, line 7, blah 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 blah, error. So it's trying to read something here which is not there. So what do? Basically we just say, all right, does it exist? And if it does exist, read from it. And let's check it out again. And then let's check it out if it's working. And now it says trying to close text which has not been opened. So you're saying, so what is actually happening now? Well, here it's trying to close something which is not there. For example, what you are seeing here, it's storing all those values from a file. That file doesn't exist, so if it doesn't exist, nothing is being stored in here. And then this line is saying, well, we need to close something which is not there. So this doesn't work as well. So we put it below here, and that is just saying, all right, so if the save file exists at some point, read out stuff and then close it. If not, well, that line is pretty much doing nothing because, well, you're not reading out anything. And for now, as you can, well, imagine, nothing is happening because you're just reading out some stuff, but we are not saving any stuff. And here we come into, well, a little bit more difficult territory because, well, for now we are dealing now with basically just plain text. And if I open that dude here, no. Just a little bit of cheating. And then we just do almost the same as before. So we say when the game ends, we want to store everything which we have, which we want to save. So basically just those two things, the resolution and the points. But here we do the same stuff. We make a variable. I call it again store save file, file text, and then open. That should be the same, but here we do write. Here we can of course copy that stuff because we are lazy, and then in the end we just open our little file if it does exist, and then we close it. And this time when we are writing something, GameMaker Studio will produce a file like this, because for now nothing is in there. But for example, if you write something in there, we will do. So how do we write in that? Pretty easy. We, for example, do something like this. We go say file text, which is the same syntax, and then we go write. And here we need to have the data structure, which is real or string. Yep, yeah, so we have that. And then, of course, where do we want to save it? Into our save file. And then here our global points. And this is line 1. This is quite crucial for now. For example, if we start it, check out, nothing is in here. Game is being started. We close it. Bam. As you can see, it's been created, and then we have a number of 0 because we didn't collect anything. So, well, so far so good. So we just stored some stuff in there. So this is pretty sweet. But now, and I've seen that in some other tutorials, I guess it was from Sean Spalding, and then he just did the same stuff, and you could just store one value, which is, in my opinion, extremely useless to do. So we want to do something which I showed you before, that you have, I don't know, like sort of a clear structure where you put in your stuff. So how can we do that? Well, and here we go into some, well, syntax you need to learn in the end, so I'll just show you this one. It just says file text write, and it says ln. And that just means that we are jumping to the next line. So for example, if we do something like this, is it open? No, it's not open. And we run the game, our global saves will be at line 2. So bam, 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 bam. Let's say 150 points, close. Let's go back into our folder. And as you can see, the first line is empty. And this is exactly what we want. Of course, you can just edit some stuff, but please don't. And here, this is how you have to do it. So basically, if you want to go in a different line, you have to go with this command. And this is quite clunky. So for example, what we can do here, we can go for the first line, and then we just make a string and call it, I don't know, we do those nice brackets here because this looks nicer, and we say player point settings setup, let's call it setup, and then we do something like this. So is it open? No, sweet. Let's do that again. And 250 points, bam. Line 5. What do you want? I understand. Here we wanted I was too fast already. As you can see, I wanted to write a real a string, but it's a real, so it's a string in the end. So my bad, I was too fast here. So let's do that again. Bam, bam, close the game, and then open the save file. As you can see, first line player setup, which is our first line here. So this should be line 1. No, this should be line 1. Then we jump to the next line. This is then line 2, and so on and so on. And this is, for example, I don't know, for example, if you want to say, alright, I want to have a new section, you could do something like this and make two empty lines, and then, I don't know, and call that, I don't know, menu setup or just menu. So you get a new part, and then, I don't know, we want to store, what did we have there? Our global resolution. So we can just store that in here. Bam. And this should be, I don't know, which line is that now? 1, 2, 3, 4. That should be line 5. And then the actual value should be line 6. Let's check it out. If and that is not, yeah, it's working. Or is it not? Let's check it out. No okay, no errors. This is good. This is definitely good. And not available. So what we did here wrong, string, and then this should actually work because we're having two strings now, one for menu and then one for the actual value we want to store. But this is just for you, so you can actually see what's happening, how this actually looks like. And yeah, so as you can see, this doesn't look too good because I did one mistake. And what did I do? I forgot to put in kind of a break line or just jump to the next line. So let's kill that and kill that. As you can see, this is quite clunky to use, and this is just the saving part. So for example, we have like that part over here. Let's start it again and close it, and then for example, if we open our save file, now it looks better. Player setup, which was just an empty string, or a string with the stacks block, and then for example our score, then our menu with another string below. So this is how you can, for example, do a structure, and then you of course need to know where to, or at which line you're doing what. So this is kind of line sensitive. Why is that line sensitive? Because for example here our global points are being read from line 1, but our line 1, what was that again? It was a string. So if you're seeing like, okay, so how do I access this line? Well, once again, we need to do something like this. We need to jump to line 2. How do we do that? Write text, and not write, but read line. And this is super clunky. As you can see, we are line 1 once we start opening the save file. With that, we jump to line 2. And now, for example, it should correctly put our score up. So we have 0, we're collecting some stuff, and when we start again, and 150. So this is how you read it out, and this is how you write it. And the structure is not too difficult, but it just, in my opinion, extremely clunky. And I would say the ini approach is easier because if you add some stuff into the ini file, it is just basically easier to edit stuff in and out. And of course, there you have your own structure. You can put it and do it as you wish. And you can of course work with some, I don't know, some loops and so on, how to fill that stuff. But this is up to you. This is for me just showing you how you can do that with text files with multiple entries. So this is how you do it. Hopefully that was well, of interest to you, and that should be a normal file saving system for some really easy games where you have just, I don't know, quite easy values to store, which is, I don't know, what do I have here? Player with its HP, then XP, so experience point, how much damage, and so on. And for example here, as you can see, the other section, which are called enemies and NPCs, they have XP and HP as well. So basically you can have the same key, which are those variables here, but in different sections. So the ini approach I would prefer, but if you wanted to do like really hardcore and do it by yourself, well, you can do it with the text as well. So hopefully that was of interest to you, and till next time, have a good one. One up indie.